My name is Anya Puchikaila. I'm in the 11th grade and I go to John Champ High School in Loudoun County. My first piece was made digitally. One of my favorite things to do is to use a lot of different colors, especially neon colors. And a digital medium, I feel, makes it much easier to do without muddying them. And also the fact that you don't have to spend money and go out to the store and try to look for specific colors that you really want. And this also allows you to experiment a lot in a digital medium. So I feel like I was able to do that with interesting textures such as halftones, which you can see on the apple and parts of the hands. My next piece was made with oil paint and an acrylic base. I wanted to try using very deep color like ultramarine blue. I used only two colors for this piece, lead white and ultramarine blue. And I wanted to try using the blue as a base to see if I could kind of get a figure to pop out from under that while keeping the blue underneath. It was kind of tough because it feels like a really low contrast situation where you have to strive a bit to make your figure look very clear and 3D. So that was the challenge there. But I do think it paid off because keeping it one color really kept its interesting atmosphere. It's almost like it's in a dream. My next piece was made with graphite. Personally, I really like the blendability that graphite has. And it really helps you get down some hard values. And this allowed me to render the bones to have a softer look other than what they would have in real life. And I feel like a good contrast to that within the piece is the hard lines that I use to define the space between the ribs and in different spots. My next piece was made with water-soluble oil pastels and watercolor markers. My reference picture was a picture of a statue, and I found it a little bit boring to just go with the original colors. So I wanted to use some analogous colors like yellows, greens, and blues to mainly color this piece. And I like using unconventional colors. I just feel like it's more interesting to look at. And especially vibrant colors, which I think paid off in this one. And they contrast pretty well with the pink in the background that adds some warmth. This is my second digital piece. I wanted to create a scene with one of my own characters and with a bit of dramatic lighting to create a certain mood. I challenged myself by lighting this scene because I really couldn't find any good reference pictures for it. Nothing specific. Especially for the wings, I had to gather a bunch and splice them together while doing the drawing. So that was the biggest challenge in this painting. But I think it's good because my favorite part of this piece is the glowy lighting, especially the parts where it looks near white. I think it goes really well with most of the figure just being in shadow and really dark. My 3D piece was made with clay. I was inspired by traditional Indian statues that I saw when I was in India. I really liked their intense facial expressions, so I wanted to translate that into my own art, especially since I am Indian. So I used a cat, and I really wanted to show the folds in the skin that would be made when someone's making that kind of expression, especially with their mouth. All the wrinkles, the laugh lines, everything. And it's a pretty intense expression, so I think bright purple and yellow are good colors to keep that intensity within the piece. My next painting was made of oil paint. It's a painting of a picture I took in a garden. I really loved how the statues looked there. And I edited it to brighten the colors and add more saturation. But this was a bit of a challenge for me because I've never painted architecture before. And I think while the lines aren't perfect in areas, I think I did okay considering it was my first time. And I wanted to branch out into painting more than just people and portraits. this is another oil painting. It's a self-portrait. And for this one, I wanted to mimic the loose style of some older painters that I've seen. I, of course, didn't get it exactly like they would, but I was studying how they did it, and they don't blend every brushstroke seamlessly. It's more of a situation where you have to look at the painting from a distance, and everything just comes together. So I really tried to do that and keep the brushstrokes visible in areas. I think I was most successful with this in the eye area with like the brushstrokes and the clumps of color. I think it worked out really well, especially with the highlights. My last piece is an oil painting of my own character. I really like the compositions I see in older paintings, where we get to see a bit of a story, and we're able to wonder what's going on in a piece when we look at it. I wanted to get that feeling of story. What's the story behind this when you look at it? So, in a technical aspect, I wanted to try rendering two people while making them look like they really belonged in a scene together, like they're existing in the same place. It's harder than it seems, especially if you're doing it between multiple sessions. You can't get the colors to really look right sometimes. So I wanted to render them as a whole of a painting rather than two separate figures. So what's my strongest piece? I think my strongest piece is my last one. It's my most ambitious piece as it's larger than what I usually work with. And despite working in oil paints for a bit now, it was my first time doing something this big, especially with two figures in it. And I usually do portraits, so I had to get the anatomy down as well. The toughest part for me was probably the hands, and keeping the lighting consistent and the colors consistent, as I said. But I think it turned out pretty good in the end. I also had a bit of trouble with values and making them the same across two people. But I think it worked out. And I was also trying a new method of coloring hair where I wanted it to be wispy, blending in with the background a little bit. I also did well with the anatomy, I think, keeping things relatively in scale with each other. So, the open studio model, how do I think I would do in it? I think I would do pretty well in that kind of environment. I usually prefer to come up with my own ideas. While I think prompts are great and specific assignments are good, I feel like I really thrive when I get to come up with my own ideas and not being held back by too specific instructions or restrictions. So I think the open studio model could be pretty good because it would be how I normally work, with the great bonus of having teachers there to help me in technical aspects of my paintings or drawings. So I think it would be pretty good. So why Pavan? I see Pavan as an opportunity for me to learn and gain knowledge and inspiration from being with other artists my age, and especially the instructors there. I think the best way that you can learn is by looking at other people's paintings and especially getting inspiration from them. And doing that from artists my own age, I feel like, is a bit more special. So I really hope I get to go there and see all the paintings there and grow my own skills, especially with the instructors who will help me with the technical aspects so I can properly bring to life the artwork that I see in my head. Thank you.